and what?
Coast to Coast AM sure sounds great in the middle of the night, but you don't have to be nocturnal to enjoy this amazing show. The Coast Insider is your key to a normal life. For 15 cents a day, you can wake up refreshed, knowing that last night's show is waiting for you with podcasting. Listen on your way to work, and again on your way home. Or listen to one of over 1,000 archived shows from the past 5 years. The Coast Insider Club is a must-have feature for all Coast to Coast AM listeners. Visit coasttocoastam.com to sign up today. You'll sleep like a baby, knowing you'll never miss your favorite guests or topics ever again. Remember, a 1-year subscription comes out to only 15 cents a day. Sign up today at coasttocoastam.com.
I hate tuning so much.
From coast to coast and worldwide on the internet, this is Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie.
What a great old classic that one is, huh? We're going to take calls with Jay Margolis next hour here. Lots more to talk with him about his new book, My Maril, M-A-R-I-L. It's an incredible story about Marilyn Monroe through the eyes of Terry Carter, whose father dated her for about a year. Columbus, Ohio, October 14th. Mark it on your calendar wherever you may be. Come to the Lincoln Theater for our live stage show. You're going to love it. Special guests, John Kachuba, the ghost professor. Special guest, Bill Bean, the spiritual warrior. Mr. Lobo, the horror movie host. And, of course, Jim Carroll, the mentalist. All going to be there for Tommy's Halloween show, and I'll be there singing and having some fun as well. October 14th, full information at coasttocoastam.com in the highlight reel, the last button of many that you see. Now, build up your immune system.
HealthyLooking.com and Dr. Alan Millay bring 4 decades of experience in natural products for the exclusive stem cell wellness kit that works with your body's stem cells to assist your immune system. Here's Dr. Millay with more.
Whether it's physical activity, obesity, diet, smoking, low on hormones, stress, sleep disorders, or your age can be supported by reducing inflammation and aiding the body to heal itself appropriately. A stem cell is a cell waiting to be told what it needs to be. If there is inflammation, that inflammation needs to be stopped. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, kidney disease, various types of cancer, depression, Alzheimer's disease, autoimmune disorders, osteoporosis, even fatty liver are chronic signs of inflammation and can be aided by supporting the body's ability to protect those cells that it needs. And that is the purpose of ImmuStem and AdaptoStem together, supporting the body to be the best it can be.
Dr. Millay, how will I feel after taking AdaptoStem and ImmuStem?
The ImmuStem is going to have an immediate effect, but I tell you, your immune system is starting to function better after 24 hours. You put AdaptoStem along with it, and most will feel it within 30 minutes.
Order now at HealthyLooking.com. The Stem Cell Wellness Kit from Dr. Millay protects your body's stem cells and will make you feel better faster. The Stem Cell Wellness Kit with AdaptoStem and ImmuStem and your free gift Relaxol is only available at healthylooking.com or toll free at 800-563-3980. That's 800-563-3980. Don't forget to enter promo code George for free shipping. George's Stem Cell Wellness Kit at healthylooking.com. That's healthylooking.com.
Today, there are more identity threats than you realize. And even if you monitor your credit and bank statements, only a little personal information needs to leak out for identity thieves to make you their victim by taking over your investment accounts, opening new loans, committing other crimes in your name, and more, all while pretending to be you. It can be dangerously easy for identity thieves to use a little leak to put you underwater. That's why LifeLock alerts you to identity threats that you could easily miss on your own. And if your identity is stolen, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. So you don't have to watch your identity go down the drain. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses. But everyone can save up to 25% off their first year at LifeLock.com with promo code George. That's promo code George for 25% off at LifeLock.com. LifeLock, identity theft protection starts here. Looking to switch to the most trusted wireless brand? Choose Consumer Cellular. They have been offering superior nationwide coverage for over 27 years. Switch today and save up to half on your wireless bill. They offer unlimited talk and text with a flexible data plan starting at just $20 a month. Their award-winning customer support team makes switching easy. And you can keep your phone and number, and activation is free. Plus, you can add a family member to your plan for just $15 a month. Never worry about dropped calls because Consumer Cellular has the exact same coverage as the major carriers with coverage to over 99% of the nation. This is all backed by their 100% risk-free guarantee. Also with Consumer Cellular, you can save up to $250 a year. Go to consumercellular.com/Nori and for a limited time get $25 off your wireless bill when you use promo code Nori. That's consumercellular.com/Nori and use promo code Nori for $25 off. Hey, and welcome back to Coast, George Nori, along with Jay Margolis, New York Times best-selling author. We're talking about his latest book called My Meryl, M-A-R-I-L. That's what Terry used to call her, wasn't it, Jay?
That's correct. There's actually Terry's grandmother, Nana, who was born Ann Conley, but everybody had a Nana, but they called her Nana. And basically, it was an affectionate name for Marilyn. Nobody else called her that throughout the whole history of Marilyn's life. And she just wanted a normal family to go home to. You see, Nana was like the mother that Marilyn never had. And so when people say that Marilyn never had a mother, well, she had one in Nana, Terry's grandmother.
Are those one of the elderly women flanking her on the cover?
That's correct. On the far left is Ann Conley. On the right is Effie Conley Warren. She later married Fred Warren. And basically, Marilyn meant so much to Nana, and Nana meant so much to Marilyn, that Marilyn once gifted Nana a charm bracelet that said, "To Ann with my deepest love and friendship, Marilyn." 14 karat gold. Wow. 1953 money. It was all capital letters inscribed, like I said. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful thing. Nobody's ever seen it until Terry's book came out.
How did you come across Terry Carter?
I was doing research, for my second book, The Murder in Marilyn Monroe, Case Closed, and it was just like a typical interview. I was thinking, okay, I'll just talk to someone who knew Marilyn. And she started talking, and I'm like, wow, this woman really knew Marilyn. She knew, how, she was like a mischievous person. She was a friendly person. She would buy you things when she couldn't afford it, like the charm bracelet. And, one time she bought something for Fred Carter, Terry's father, and she didn't have it inscribed. It just said December 25th, 1948. And Fred says, why didn't you inscribe it? And Marilyn says, well, you'll find another woman to love, and then my present won't mean anything to you. Now, without my name on it, you can always use it.
What would you say is unique about this book that hasn't been covered in other books and stories?
This book is for the first time presents like a human side of Marilyn. She was someone who Terry knew for 14 years, longer than any of her 3 husbands knew her. So she knew her before she was famous, during the time she was famous, and until her death. And what's different is that we see sides of Marilyn we've never seen before. You know, it's almost as if Marilyn was practicing on Terry because Marilyn could never have children. So it was almost like Terry was like her surrogate daughter, so to speak, and somewhat like, you know, younger sister. And so it was, you know, sort of like the Marilyn behind the mask. You don't get this from the other books. You know, it was someone who was overly generous, someone who was super intelligent. She had over 400 books in her collection when she died. She was always searching, you know, for intelligence anywhere she could go. She loved Arthur Miller. When Arthur Miller told her about Carl Sandburg and his Abraham Lincoln biography, because Marilyn loved Abraham Lincoln, she immediately went and bought it up. And then she eventually met Carl Sandburg, and they had a very nice time together. In fact, Carl Sandburg made a statement and said, well, I would have loved her even if she wasn't the famous Marilyn because she was such a beautiful person. He said there was something democratic about her, which means that it felt like any man could, you know, have access to her. She was such a sweet person that she didn't, you know, turn people away, you know, like a lot of, you know, beautiful women might, you know, if they're arrogant about themselves. But she was not an arrogant person.
I bet she would have been just a nice person to know.
Absolutely, and that's what Terry was saying, is that she said, I'm so sick and tired of reading all these books. She said, I would have normally never written this book, Jay, but the reason I decided to was to set the record straight. And she says she doesn't want to go in front of any interviews or anything. She says, this is the book, here it is, make of it what you will. Jay, you can do the interviews, you're my representative. I don't want to have people think I'm trying to profit from knowing Marilyn, but I want people to know who she was before I pass away, so that'll make me feel better, because this woman was nothing but sweet to me. They used to play hide and seek together. Marilyn used to take her to Christian Science Church because Marilyn, her guardian, Aunt Anna, there was the aunt of her guardian, Grace Goddard. Aunt Anna took her to Christian Science Church, so she also took Terry to Christian Science Church. You see, the mother of Terry, Patty Carter, was a famous divorce lawyer who had clients like Cary Grant and Bing Crosby, and so she was into Christian Science a little bit too. So, you know, Patty was okay with Marilyn taking, you know, her daughter to Christian Science Church. In fact, Patty became best friends with Marilyn, along with Fred's sister Mary. There was a devilish trio: Marilyn, Aunt Mary, and Patty, Terry's mother. And one time Marilyn says she was in New York, and she says, hey, I'd like to play a prank on Jane Wyman. Why don't you go grab that cardboard cutout of the 7-year itch and put it on Jane Wyman's lawn? And so Patty and Mary go and grab it from the Brahmins Chinese Theater, and they put it on Jane Wyman's lawn, and believe me, she was none too happy. But Marilyn thought it was the funniest thing.
A week ago, Marilyn would have turned 97 years old. Can you believe that? Wow.
That's really something to imagine. I mean, I don't think she would have taken old age so well. She was having a hard time with it at 36.
Yeah.
You know, and she died just a couple months after she turned 36. And you could see it, and there's something got to give. You know, the last big film that she's working on, she still has that struggle before the camera. Even though she's a seasoned performer by that time, you know, she still has that insecurity. A lot of people have said that she's being willful, I'm being late, you know, why can't you show up on time? She just had the worst case of stage fright you can ever imagine. That's what Terry's trying to convey. And a lot of people didn't realize that. They mistook it for her just being like a prima donna.
Yeah, they used to talk about her being unreliable on the movie set. Is that justified?
You could say that, but what was really ironic was on Bus Stop, Don Murray, who I spoke to, he was the cowboy opposite her, and he said, oh, it seemed like she could never put two sentences together. She'd forget her lines and all this and that. But he said Bill Reynolds, the editor, put together all those little bits and pieces of Marilyn, and when you look at the film as a whole, he's surprised about how beautiful it turned out. There's some kind of movie magic that despite all this, you know, thing that she makes everybody wait and everything else, especially on Some Like It Hot with, you know, Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis. I mean, there's something beautiful that she's able to produce, you know, regardless of all this lateness and everything else. It's just like magic, movie magic of unexplained kind, you know.
She had an aura about her. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and Billy Wilder said he while he was thinking maybe I shouldn't work with her again, he says, well, she, you know, made box office gold, and I want her for Some Like It Hot. Let's get some more of that magic.
Now, where did Ronald Reagan enter the picture?
Well, he entered the picture, as I said, with when Terry was 11, you know, Jane Wyman and Fred, they married the day after Halloween on November 1st, 1952. In fact, on October 31st, Michael, Maureen and Terry went trick-or-treating together, and that's the first time they met each other. And Michael had his cowboy costume on, and it was, they're thinking, like, what's going on, you know? I mean, and Jane Wyman says, I got to take you aside for a second, and Terry says, well, I'm thinking maybe she wants us to, you know, look both ways before we cross the street. But she's saying, I'm going to be your new mother, and he's going to be your new father. Jane says to Michael and Maureen, that's going to be your new father. But, you know, and then Michael's like, well, I want to see Ronald Reagan. I want to see my dad. You know, I thought that maybe Dad wouldn't be in the picture anymore, and he said, well, that's not true. It was just a different setup, and, you know, things were going to be okay regardless. Terry got to go on the ranch, on Ronald Reagan Ranch, and had her own goat on the ranch. In fact, Terry's cousin Johnny was also asked to go along because his parents were having marital problems, so Jane Wyman very thoughtfully said, well, why don't you come up with Ronald Reagan? You can go to the ranch and figure things out where your parents are trying to do their thing at home. So he used to bunk with Michael, and Terry would bunk with Maureen, and Johnny learned how to shoot a rifle and also how to chop wood. And Ronald Reagan was a very powerful fatherly figure at a time when Johnny really needed it.
And then Michael used to see his father every other week?
That's correct, every other weekend.
They did a great job doing that.
Well, you know, Michael Reagan's very respectful of his father, and I just like to say I've interviewed Michael, and I thought that it was a very beautiful interview. I mean, it just came out to so many, pages, single-spaced on Microsoft Word when I typed it out. And I've put it throughout the book because I really believe that what he's saying is just he's in so much respect of his mother and his father that it's really admirable. There's something to be said about that. You know, I mean, he just has so much admiration, and believe me, I mean, he knew him before they were famous. So, like, this whole transformation, he said it really was kind of like unbelievable that this happened because it's not something that, you know, he would have ever expected, and when it did, it was a remarkable experience for him.
I remember the Marilyn Monroe story when she died. I was just a little kid.
Yes.
It was a bizarre story, wasn't it?
Wouldn't you be surprised to learn that even before the autopsy was performed, that they had police reports saying that she committed suicide or she died by accident?
Yeah.
Well, how did they know?
They quickly...
You know, I mean, that's a very strange thing. Normally, you do the autopsy first, then they tell you how she died.
And her maid was what, Eunice Murray? Was that her name?
Yes, and a lot of people put, you know, a lot of evilness next to Eunice Murray's name, but she actually very responsibly called an ambulance. And I spoke with Edgardo Villalobos from Schaefer Ambulance. He was the first one to take the call that night. And he said that the dispatcher was Joe Tarnowski, which is verified by two other attendants I spoke to. And he said that he was at Beverly and Western. There were two stations, one in Santa Monica and then one in Beverly and Western. So he said he couldn't have gone there if he's going 100 miles an hour. He's like 15 miles away. So he said that it was transferred to James Hall and Murray Leibowitz, who were right around UCLA, and they responded within 2 minutes. They put a resuscitator on her. Her color's coming back. They're about to put her in the ambulance, and this guy with a business suit and tie says, I'm her doctor. Give her positive pressure. He's got a mustache. And so he takes out a hypodermic syringe with the heart needle already affixed to it. It's about 1 foot long. He fills it with a brownish fluid, which is not adrenaline, and says, I've got to make a show of this. He injects it into her heart, and then he says, I'm going to pronounce her dead. You can leave. And the attendants for the longest time thought that it was probably adrenaline, but they did say it was a brownish fluid. And then they later learned that the autopsy had an empty stomach. In 1982, they learned that detail, and they said, well, what did I just witness? And so they, changed their mind. They think that she was murdered. In fact, there were 5 eyewitnesses to her murder. The 2 attendants, James Hall and Murray Leibowitz, who both say that, Greenson killed Marilyn. And then there's Peter Locker, who made a statement that corroborates the 2 ambulance attendants. He said, Marilyn has got to be silenced, Bobby told Greenson, or something to that effect. Greenson had thus set up by Bobby to take care of Marilyn. See, Greenson was a psychiatrist, the guy with the mustache who stabbed her in the heart. And so, to add all this to make it even more, credible, 7 miles from the crime scene, 20 minutes after Greenson injects her, Detective Lynn Franklin of the Beverly Hills Police Department pulls over a drunk Peter Lawford in a beige Continental sedan. He's going 80 miles an hour with his headlights off. He's at Olympic and Roscoe Boulevard, and Franklin immediately recognizes Peter Lawford and Bobby Kennedy, and he says, hey, Pete, what are you doing? You're going so fast. You're going like 80 miles an hour. And Pete says, oh, I'm trying to get the Attorney General over here back to San Francisco so he can fly out of town. And then Franklin says, well, Pete, you're going the wrong way. You're heading towards downtown Los Angeles. And then Bobby Kennedy says to Peter, I told you, stupid.
Wow.
And it was funny because they, Franklin says, who's this guy in the front seat? And Pete says, oh, that's just a doctor. He's riding along with us.